Everyone assumes that Mommy Longlegs was just another boss you had to defeat, just another terrible experiment on Playtime Co.'s list. But with her, there's something that doesn't quite add up. Because when you connect the dots between what happened with Doughy the Dough Man, what happened with Huggy Wuggy, and what's happening right now with the prototype, you realize something much darker. You didn't kill Mommy Longlegs, it was the prototype who killed her. And it wasn't because she was weak or useless for his army, it was because she was the only real threat left to the prototype. Let me explain. The prototype, Experiment 1006, isn't a monster that attacks by instinct, like Yarnaby or the Pianosaur. The prototype is someone who uses strategy. And we've seen that over and over again. He didn't fight against Doughy the Dough Man directly, instead he used you. He manipulated you into coming in, activating the valves, and destroying Safe Haven, causing a fight between you and Doughy, so you would defeat the only experiment that could really face him as an equal. Doughy was extremely strong, so strong that not even the prototype wanted to challenge him without any plan. But what did the prototype do to defeat him? Nothing. He let you do the dirty work while he watched. And that's the pattern. Well, with this, the death of the other experiment starts to look different. For example, Huggy Wuggy was the main test. The prototype watched you defeat him at the entrance of the factory, and that's when he understood something very important. Player is useful for many things. Player can eliminate experiments that the prototype would have a hard time dealing with. From that moment on, we stopped being the victim trapped in Playtime Co. and became a lethal tool. But with that said, now let's talk about Mommy Longlegs. And what I'm going to tell you is what makes her different from any other experiment you faced. Because yes, Doughy was powerful, Catnap was terrifying, but Mommy Longlegs represented something that the prototype couldn't overlook. First, Mommy Longlegs wasn't mentally stable at all. Mommy Longlegs wasn't loyal to anyone. She killed Playtime Co-employees during the Hour of Joy. She also killed other experiments, her own companions. She even defeated her own partner, who was created to keep her calm, Daddy Longlegs. She tore apart game station participants without batting an eye. She didn't follow orders from the prototype, nor did she follow anyone's orders. She operated only in chaos, and chaos is very hard to control or predict. The prototype can manipulate someone who is afraid or manipulate someone who wants power. But it can't manipulate someone who simply enjoys killing without a clear goal. Second, Mommy Longlegs was immune to its main control tool. The prototype has an ability that makes it lethal. It can mimic voices. We saw this with Ollie, with the employees, and with other experiments. It uses your trust, innocence, and your desire to help a scared child to guide you exactly where it wants. But with Mommy Longlegs, this tactic was useless. If it mimicked an adult employee, it wouldn't work at all, because she hated all of them. She literally tore them apart for years. So hearing the voice of a scientist would have only made her angrier. It wouldn't have calmed her down. Or how about mimicking an orphan child? It wouldn't work. She knew the children from Playcare, she spent time with them and knew who they were and what they sounded like. The prototype couldn't just make up a voice and expect her to fall for it. Without voice manipulation, the prototype loses its main advantage, and Mommy Longlegs knew it from the start. Third, physically she was a real threat. Just look at her design. 4 elastic limbs, reach that covers entire rooms, agility to move across the ceiling, the walls, and anywhere she wants. On the other hand, the prototype has 6 limbs and seems to be very agile, but her body is heavier. And especially slower. She could attack from angles he couldn't cover. In a direct confrontation, there was no guarantee of victory for anyone, and as we already know, the prototype doesn't take risks. That's the key to everything, so you have Mommy Longlegs, unstable, impossible to manipulate with voice, physically capable of being a legitimate threat, and completely out of his control. The prototype couldn't let her live, but he couldn't kill her himself either. Doing that was too risky. He could have died one way or another or ended up badly injured. He needed someone to enter Game Station, solve the games, and eliminate her without him having to lift a finger. And this is where you come in. You go to Game Station, play the games, keep moving forward, and meanwhile, he watches you from the shadows and doesn't stop you at all. He lets you get closer and closer to Mommy Longlegs so you can finish her off. In fact, something tells me that Poppy's kidnapping was planned by the prototype. Maybe the phrase that Mommy Longlegs says when she's destroyed by the shredder, "He'll make me part of him."
Stop! He'll make me part of him!
She brings it up because the prototype told her just before we got to Game Station. What if he was the one who told Mommy that he was getting close to Poppy and that she had to keep her captive and also eliminate Player, or else he would kill her and make her part of him? Anyway, after making your way through all of Game Station, when you finally face her and she ends up trapped in the crusher, where is the prototype? Watching, waiting for her to die, and then he takes what's left of her. Mommy Longlegs' arms weren't just trash he picked up from the floor. They were a trophy, and they were a message to every experiment left in the factory. This is what happens when you don't follow my orders. It doesn't matter if you're an experiment that seems deadly. I'm always in control. So, my friends, the Mommy Longlegs sequence and Chapter 2 weren't just a simple boss fight or just survival. All of Chapter 2 was an execution planned by the only experiment smart enough to never get his hands dirty, the prototype. Mommy Longlegs didn't lose to you. She actually lost to the prototype. You just made sure to finish her off, that's all. In fact, even Mob Entertainment themselves confirmed that Mommy Longlegs was completely crazy. And if you think Mommy Longlegs was the only one, wait until you see what's happening with the experiments we all thought were dead, because the prototype hasn't finished cleaning up the factory, and what's coming in Chapter 6 is going to change everything you know about who's really on whose side. See you next time.